and welcome back. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. And one of the things I absolutely love in the luxury makeup category are luxury brushes. And today we are going to be doing episode 2 in my brush series. So if you haven't already seen episode 1, that one is what covered my favorite brushes in different makeup categories, like my favorite blush brushes and eye brushes and so forth. Today, we are going to be discussing starting a brush collection. I actually have not been collecting brushes for a very long time. It has been less than 2 years since I started collecting nicer brushes. Before that, I had, basically random brushes I'd pick up different places. I did have some natural hair brushes, but most of mine were synthetic or things just like random, like one-off type brushes. I didn't have like sets of things. And it was something I always wanted and decided, what am I waiting for? Let's go ahead and get into luxury brushes. I had intended on picking up just a few and using those every single day. And I wasn't gonna spend a ton of money on brushes. That was gonna be it. And of course, that's not what happened. I picked up my first luxury brushes that I picked up as a set was actually the Sonia G. I don't remember which ones I got first. I think I actually got the Sky face set first. Those were my first luxury brush. No, I think I might have had the Pro eye set first. But regardless, I picked up one of those sets first and they were right around the same time. So I know I picked them up right around the same time as each other. And when my package from Beautylish was delivered, I literally squealed and jumped up and down and everything. It was like a little kid in a candy store. I was so excited. And they were just so incredibly soft. So from that point, I have, of course, picked up quite a few brushes and I have ventured into some other brands. I haven't covered all of the brands I'd like to yet. For 2021, one of my goals is to start looking into Hakuhodo brushes as well. I don't have any of those, so I won't be speaking on those. Now, of course, I am not an expert in brushes, but I am going to share my experience and my opinions with you on these brushes as somebody who uses them every day. And personally, I like to keep my brushes very clean. A lot of brush companies and a lot of experts in the field will recommend that you do not wash your brushes frequently. There are, however, a few, specifically some professional makeup artists, who will recommend washing them on a more regular basis, either daily or weekly. So it kind of depends who you listen to, and there's so much different advice and everything out there. So in our third video, we will be covering cleaning and storing of brushes. We'll go over all the different advice and then what I actually do in my real life. So, do I actually follow that advice or, let's face it, people are always brushing and stuff. That doesn't always happen. So for today, we're going to talk about just the bare basics of what I think everybody should have in a collection, especially if you are starting and getting into luxury brushes, or if you're looking for a set to take for travel, because a lot of people don't want to travel with their expensive luxury brushes in case they get ruined or lost or anything like that. So we're going to talk about brushes with that, and I've got a few different options at different price points. The first set we're going to talk about is actually from Rephr. And if you are unfamiliar with Rephr, they were a startup company in Canada. And it's actually like a group of guys who decided to make luxury makeup brushes. And honestly, the way that was kind of worded wasn't really appealing to me at first, but I was very interested in the set. So I picked up all of their brushes when they first became available last year, and I like the brushes. I think they are very nice basic workhorse brushes, and they are great to start off with. Right now they have a fantastic deal on their website for the core set, which happens to be my favorite set on their site. So we have 5 brushes in the core set. This one's a little wet, so I'm kind of holding it to the side. But we have number 1, which is an eye shader brush. And you can see that I didn't dry this on a brush guard, so if you do, it will be a little bit slimmer. But you can see that this is an eye shader brush, and it's still fluffy enough that you could use it in the crease as well. However, I pretty much use it more to apply color. Brush number 2 is a smaller, flatter, stiffer version of this, which is also great, particularly for metallic shadows. Brush 3 is going to be a pencil brush. And you know, at first I didn't love this brush. I wanted something a little bit pointier and stiffer, which they have since created. And I have really grown to love this brush for the lower lash line. But for the upper lash line, I do often prefer to use something a little bit thinner for a, you know, stiffer point. Brush 4, we have this angled cheek brush. And I think this is great for blush, bronzer. You could even use this for highlight if you wanted to. And then we have brush 5, which you can use for powder, or I most often use it for blush, but it also works well for powder. So this core set from Rephr technically has everything you need. I personally feel like to have a complete set, you should incorporate a few other brushes. Now, before we get onto those other brushes, I want to talk about the hair on these. So this is goat hair, and goat hair is known for being soft, yet still being able to pick up product well and disperse it well. Some other softer hairs, you know, they're a little bit too soft. They don't have as much grip for the product, so you get a lighter application. Goat hair gives you a stronger application. Now, goat hair comes in 2 different kinds, essentially. You have the undyed ones, which are typically going to be white hair brushes. And then you also have things like this. This is the Sonia G Soft Cheek. And this would be dyed goat hair. So it looks brown, it's been dyed, it's a little bit softer through that dyeing process, but this one you want to use with powders only, whereas the undyed goat hair you can use with powders, creams, liquids, and that's one of the reasons why for a starter set, I always recommend going with something with undyed goat hair because of the versatility of that hair type. And the fact that you can use it with creams and liquids. You don't really necessarily have to consciously be thinking, oh, can I use this brush for that? Is that okay? Is it gonna ruin it? So I really do like undyed goat hair for starter collections. Now, if you wanted to get a complete set from Rephr, one of the things that I recommend is also picking up some crease brushes. And their brushes 13 through 16 are all crease brushes of varying sizes. I recommend picking up 2. So this is 14 and 16. 14 is the smaller, and this one here is 16. And then we have 13 and 15 here. So it depends. If you have a smaller eye shape, I would go with 13 and 15. And if your eyes are a little larger, if you want a larger blending area, go with 14 and 16. But I think it's great to have something big and fluffy that you can use to kind of clean up, but it's also really nice to have a small crease brush to really concentrate the color in certain areas. You can also use this for like the outer corner and stuff as well. So to complete the eye set that you get with the core set, I would recommend picking up 2 of these crease brushes. And then just a personal favorite of mine is their Rephr 20 fan brush. And I just really like this one because it's not super flimsy, but it's not really stiff and huge either. And I like it for light highlight application. I do have another favorite brush from Rephr as well, but we're not going to cover that one today because it's not really a starter. It's not necessary for the starter collection. Now, I did want to say that after my last video, Rephr did contact me and they gave me an affiliate code. So if you are interested in picking up any of these brushes, I do not receive anything off of the core set. I do think it's a great buy right now at half off, well, 48% off. So I would definitely recommend picking that up. And I asked them if they have plenty of stock of those, and they definitely made sure to stock up well so that this promotion will last for a while without running out of stock. So if you're interested in picking those up, I would definitely recommend those. Again, I have a link in the description box below for the core set that is not affiliated. However, I also have a link that is affiliated for any additional brushes that you may be interested in picking up. So feel free to use those if you're interested. If not, totally fine. Next up, at a slightly higher price point, we have the Chikuhodo Takumi series. And again, we're looking at undyed goat hair because of its versatility. And I do not have all of the brushes that I would recommend. So if you're starting a collection and you are interested in undyed goat hair, you know, this would be a series I would recommend, but I don't have all of their brushes because I didn't purchase them for a starter collection. However, again, they are versatile for powders and creams, and These are a bit softer than the Rephr brushes. So the Rephr ones I think are a little bit more basic. These are going to be a little bit softer. This is the T11 and this is their liquid brush. So you can use this for foundation or any liquids and cream products. It doesn't have to be for liquid, but just because of its density and shape, it is ideal for liquid and cream products. I personally like to use this with some of the runnier foundation formulas. I also have the 3 eye brushes from them, and this is T7, T8, and T12. So T7 is going to be your shader style brush, and just like the one from Rephr, it's a little bit fluffier and so forth. So if you wanted to, you could really use it in the crease and makes it a little bit more versatile. Then we have the T8, and you can see that this one is going to be a thicker, more of a pencil shape, but it's thicker so that it's a little bit more versatile. You can target the crease with this. It's not great at that because it is a little bit smaller and pointier for that, but if you want really precise color in an area, this is great for that. I personally like to use this for outer corner, inner corner, and the lower lash line. I find it a little bit big for the upper lash line, but if you dampen it and kind of draw it into a point, it works well for that as well. And then we have the T12, and this one I love for the lash line in general. It's a smudger brush. I love smudger brushes. You could also use the side of this for packing any like metallic or glittery products as well. It's a little bit small to truly pack the whole eyelid, but it can be done. I usually use it more for the inner corner. Now, just because these are technically eye brushes doesn't mean that's why you have to use them. This one, the T8 in particular, is also great for concealer. So if you need to spot conceal, this is a great brush to use for spot concealing anywhere on your face. So I would definitely recommend this brush. Now, as I mentioned, I don't have the whole set of these, but they do have quite a few other brushes here. I personally love the T11 for foundation. It's also great for bronzer though. So I personally really like the shape and the size for bronzer. So I think it's got a versatile use there. But from the Takumi series, I'm going to put up some pictures of some other brushes I'd recommend, but I would definitely recommend picking up a face powder brush and a blush brush, or one that can do dual duty. And just like the Rephr set, you're kind of looking for those specific shapes. So you're looking for some sort of like domed face brush or cheek brush that you can use all over. An angled cheek brush is always great because it can really apply your blush a little differently. And I personally think they are great for bronzer as well. And those are really going to be the basics that you need, in my opinion. So you need powder, cheek, and eye brushes. If, however, you are looking for a starter set of brushes and you use primarily powders or all powders, then go ahead and test out some Sonia G brushes in some dyed goat hair as well. A lot of Sonia G brushes are going to be goat hair. That she's got some that are, you know, completely dyed goat hair. She has some that are undyed goat hair. So having a set that kind of mixes and matches in there, I think is a great way to, you know, test things out and see which fibers you like. So some of my recommendations for Sonia G, let's go over those. Sonia G brushes don't all have the traditional brush shape. So a lot of her brushes are more multifunctional, and that makes it a little bit easier to do a starter collection with her brushes. So there are some that I would recommend. Let's start off with the powder brush. This is the Master Face brush, and you can see this is actually a mix of hairs. So we've got a mix of dyed and undyed hairs. This is for powder though, okay? And one of the reasons that I really love this is, you know, if you wanted to, you could use this for blush. For me, I find it a little bit too big for blush, but I know other people who love it for blush, who love it for bronzer. I personally use it for powder, and it has this nice dome shape and it's semi-dense. So, you know, it's not super floppy, but there's going to be some give here, but there's also a little bit of resistance. So it's kind of in the middle there with density. And that makes it really great for buffing as well. Now, it's not going to be as great as something like the Face One or the Smooth Buffer for buffing, because that's going to be a much denser flat top kabuki style brush, which is great for buffing or if you use powder or mineral foundations. But This one, you can use this for loose powders, pressed powders, put on light dusting, or you can use it to really buff things in as well. And again, you're gonna get kind of like a medium buff from this. And I just think it's very versatile. It's my favorite face brush. Now for cheeks, I think it depends on what you use for cheek products. If you occasionally use cream products, then I would recommend going with something with undyed goat hair, like the Classic Cheek. This is one of my favorite blush brushes, and you can see that it is going to be a little bit on the shorter side and it's a little denser. It's great for buffing in blush as well. And I like this for powders and creams, so I think this is the most versatile cheek brush, and I love this one. However, if you want to try something that's a little bit looser, I would go with the Designer Pro. And you can see that we have a pinched ferrule here, which kind of flattens this a little bit. And then we have this nice, like kind of like a squished candle. So a typical candle shape is going to be a little bit longer and pointier. And this one's a little bit shorter, more squat than that. So this is good for blush. You can also use it for highlight. And if you wanted to, you could use it for bronzer or contour. I think a denser brush works a little bit better for that, but it does work as well. So this is the Designer Pro, and it is pretty versatile. So I would recommend this as well. And you don't have to get both of these. So the Designer Pro is powders only. The Classic Cheek is going to be powders or creams. So pick and choose depending on your particular, products that you use. Now for eye brushes, again, you don't have to go with undyed goat hair, but this one is my favorite eye brush. It's a soft shader. It happens to be undyed goat hair, which I think is great because if you ever want to dampen your eyeshadow, you're not going to damage anything by using a wet product on here. And honestly, the way wet products work to damage hairs isn't the fact that it's wet. If you get a brush wet, no big deal. Obviously, you're going to get them wet when you are washing them. When you do have a wet brush, you don't want to store it like this. You want to make sure all the water drips out because there's glue inside that could loosen over time. Now, the reason that using wet liquid or cream products on fibers can actually damage them is because what happens is when that product dries on the brush and it kind of starts to get a little crusty, then when you go to wash it, those hairs are really delicate and they can actually break off. And with the undyed goat hair, they're a little bit stronger. So that's not as likely to happen as it would be with something like squirrel hair or dyed goat hair, because during the dyeing process, the hair becomes a little bit more fragile, just like your own hair when you dye it. So back to my point, I think the soft shader is great. It's a flat shader. I think everybody needs to have a flat shader in their collection. And this one in particular is my favorite because it is a great size for my eye and it really packs on product well. It's got, just enough flexibility that it's very soft and smooth on the eye. You can use it with any type of eye product. Now for crease brushes, if you want something that is dyed goat hair, I recommend the Classic Crease from Sonia G. This is a medium size, so it kind of, does double duty here, and this would be powders only. I think it's a great brush. And then I think everybody needs some sort of smudger brush as well. This is the Smudger 2 from Sonia G. And this is great for lining the eyes or dabbing the inner corner and also like brow highlight and so forth. You could even use this if you were using like an eyebrow powder. You can use this in the eyebrow as well, as you can with most smudger brushes. But this one in particular is going to be stiff enough that it works decently well with that. So those are actually going to be my Sonia G recommendations then for a starter set. Now, Sonia G does have sets of brushes as well. And just so you know, you are not getting a discount by purchasing it in a set versus purchasing the brushes individually. And I love her sets. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. But again, for a starter collection, I think you're looking for tools that can be used more in a multifunctional purpose. You're getting like as few things as possible to start with, and then you can kind of build your collection with what you feel maybe you need more of, or a slightly different shape and so forth. And then as you have used your brushes more and more and more, and you fall more in love with Fude style brushes, then you want to start looking into different types of hairs and fibers and starting to experiment with them. But you can just pick up like one or two and you don't have to worry about starting with a complete set. Now, if you are ready to branch out and you have been using your brushes and you want to try something super soft, I would definitely recommend starting off with a cheek brush or a powder brush that is made out of squirrel hairs. So perhaps something like the Chikuhodo Hamari series, which uses the Kazan brushes. This is the KZ4, which is one of my very favorite brushes, or the Surat brushes, which are great, and they're very similar to the Z series from Chikuhodo as well. And remember, right now there is 25% off at Surat with the code KinkySweat25, or you can also get 25% off by doing a virtual consultation with one of their makeup artists. Once you have been using your starter collection for quite a while and you're ready to branch out, you may want to branch out into different fibers and feeling slightly different shapes and so forth, but you might also want to look for a brush that doesn't really fit a basic need, but is going to enhance your collection. And that would be something like the Sonia G Face One or Smooth Buffer brush, which is a great buffing brush in general. It really, blurs the lines of blush and bronzer and highlight. It works great for buffing in things like the Guerlain Meteorite pearls. It works fantastically for mineral foundation. So this is a brush that's not technically a basic, but it would really enhance your collection. And this, or the Smooth Buffer, which is the little sister to it. I think the Smooth Buffer is a little bit more versatile just because the smaller size will, create, you can do a few more functions with it with the cheek, but they're both fantastic brushes. Or you might just want to enhance with some slightly different sizes and shapes of brushes that you already have in your collection. Like this is the Rephr 24, which I love for bronzer. We have the Sonia G Sculpt 1. This is something a lot of people use for bronzer as well. I don't really use it for bronzer too much, but it is a favorite for many people for that purpose. One last thing that I wanted to mention are the brush handle sizes. So if you are looking for a starter set and you haven't really done you haven't used makeup brushes too often, a lot of times one of the things that you want to look for is a short handle because it gives you more control. It's a little bit easier to use a short handle brush. So you could purchase a brush that's marked as travel because those are typically, they're going to use short handles to take up less space. Or the Chikuhodo Takumi series, you can see that this is going to be a shorter handled brush. Next up in size are the Rephr, which are going to be slightly longer, but they're still on the shorter handled size. And then the Sonia G are going to be a little bit longer. You can even get some brushes that are longer than this, such as the Chikuhodo GSN series. But the closer your hand is to the ferrule, the more control you have. And if you like to work closely to a mirror, for example, I wore contacts and glasses for many years, and I would often put a lot of my makeup on prior to, especially if I was wearing glasses that day, I'd put my makeup on without my glasses in certain areas. I'd have to get super close to the mirror, and short handled brushes were key for me. So I used to use a lot of brushes that were ones that I could hold in my palm instead, like a little kabuki brush and so forth. So depending on your lifestyle, you do want to take into account the brush handle size. Now, I do enjoy all of these brush handle sizes. The ones that are longer than Sonia G, I don't use as much. I am not that skilled. So for me, I personally prefer the shorter handle sizes. And just so you know, we've got Chikuhodo Takumi, then Rephr, and then Sonia G is going to be slightly longer. And you can see that they are all kind of like in gradation. I hope this video was helpful to help you figure out what kind of brushes you would like for a starter collection. And again, just because these are the ones I suggested here doesn't mean that those are the ones that really only work best for a starter collection. There are so many different brands, so forth, but really what I'd like you to take away from this is the brush shapes and the types of fibers that are going to be most suitable for your lifestyle. I hope this video was helpful. If you like this video, please make sure you hit that thumbs up sign. That really helps my channel quite a bit. And as always, if you'd like to support my channel, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I will see you next time. So have a great day.